no, this is after unnecessary questions.
Yeah. No, it's fine. Oh, so it's interesting because we're just coming up to 3:30 now. There is sort of every so often we'll get incredible sunshine here, and that blurs my screen and my vision, and then it goes to rain again. But that's the time of year. Very low sunlight coming in. So we're coming up to 3:30 on a Friday. 10:30 for you, Scott.
Yeah.
So seems like that's the whole curvature of the Earth issue. So we will give it a couple of seconds. If anyone's on, if they want to say hi into the comments, that'd be great. If anyone's on, we'll see. Sometimes we're out, sometimes we stop. It takes a couple of people minutes to get running. But let's have a little look and just make sure when we're on this, we'll see we're running on LinkedIn. We should say we're running and we're live. You can join. 33 attendees so far logged in. Brilliant. Give it a second. Right. So it's 3:30 on a Friday afternoon in the UK, 4:30 in Europe. If you're in the West Coast, it's 7:30 in the morning. So we've got people like Rob King over there. And we've got in the East Coast, it's 10:30 for you, Scott. And we have Aaron on from Manchester, Newhouse, Texas. Howdy, Angela. I don't know the time in Texas. I remember you're in between the two, and it depends where you are in Texas because it's confusing.
It's 8:30 or 9:30.
8:30. Yes. So it's 8:30 or 9:30 again, that difficult bit. So thank you very much for joining us today. Today we're going to talk about what we call a KAI, and we're going to talk about planning a consultative sale and thinking a little bit about what we need in that sale and how we're going to separate it out. What is a KAI? Well, we call it key application information. And it's really just a way of recording what are the specifics that you need in every deal for you. When we're selling, there are generic sales questions we're going to ask. What are your timescales? Have you got the budget and so on? That's going to happen all the time. It doesn't matter what you're selling. If you're selling in a relatively consultative way, you're going to have those types of questions. But the KAI addresses it relative to your application. So before we start, we talk a little bit about Guido. I'm joined today by Scott Young in Philadelphia. Scott's one of our senior partners. We have another person, Dan Brooks, who's actually out today. So Dan's normally on these things as well. He does a couple of these things as well. And there are 7 of us in total in the business, 3 senior consultants, and we have a lot of people that help us with business development work as well. And we help companies launch, strengthen, and accelerate their businesses. So let's start, how can you get what you need to be useful or dangerous? This is why, your aim here is to kind of help customers. And if you've got the information, you're a dangerous sales rep. You're capable of converting information. You're capable of getting these sales going through. That sales, you're getting enough information how you could be dangerous. That's what we're focusing on. Gathering information and when we're going to get that information from a customer or a prospect. What we're going to look at is we're going to look a bit at like the types of sales and then what information we're going to get and when. And then we're going to look at the KAI and why we bother to have a KAI. So let's start off. First thing is, are we selling or servicing demand? Right? We want to get into this bit. When we're selling something, are we selling it or are we really servicing demand and going through some form of transaction? And the way we can look at that and call it is really, are we doing an assisted purchase or a proactive sale? So if we look at an assisted purchase, this is basically someone filling in a form on a website and saying, yeah, I'm interested in this product. I'm buying one of your products from you or your competitors. Now the salesperson just needs to execute. They execute in whatever way the go-to-market works. They're either demonstrating, quoting, closing, whatever. Normal thing. I want one of these, or I'm going to get one from a competitor or something similar. A proactive sale is where you or the customer have identified problems which could be solved in multiple different ways. You could do them different ways. You could do A or B or C or a different thing or whatever. You're working together on this problem and you're crafting the solution together and you're selling it as a solution and not a commodity. Now, most salespeople that I've worked with operate in a mix. Some people fill in forms and go, yeah, I want something. And some stuff you've got to start from nothing. And you're actually starting to come up with the proactive solution. Now, if you're prospecting and you sell one thing, you can't really do this. So it's not exactly like a proactive sale is purely prospecting. You're trying to find ways with multiple products or multiple solutions to fit to that person. And this might just be configuring, right? So like Scott and I worked in microscopy. Scott, the customer wants something. Okay, do you want 100x, 1.4, 1.3, right? So you're helping them get to that kind of point together. So normally it's a mix. So, some people are 100% business development. That's different. You're pretty much on proactive, particularly if you've got a lot of different products, or you're capable of crafting a solution. Now, is it a commodity or a solution? And really importantly, does the prospect agree? I've seen people try and sell $150,000 cameras as if they're a commodity. By basically, a commodity is something like a tire. If I break, if I get a nail in my tire and I can't put a puncture repair on it, my intent is I got to buy it now. If I'm buying a nuclear power station, I've got a long-term solution I'm trying to get, right? If I'm doing a commodity, my cost perception is, like I've got a nail on my tire, I just want the cheapest one. I'm not looking at an investment. I'm not thinking, well, look, this machine has got to help us for the next 10 years and we're really going to get value in year 3. My vision for fixing my tire is historic. It's quick fit. It's Pirelli. I don't know, whatever my brand is that I've kind of got. So all the way through, there are multiple different ways of viewing what is a commodity or a solution. And what's really scary, as I said, is when I had people that would say, hey, look, they asked me for a quote for a camera. It's $150,000. What are they doing? Quantum research. Okay, well, what about? Well, I gave him a quote. What? You gave him a quote? We got options. What's going on? How are we helping them? What trigger signals do they need? How they? We're just selling it like it's a commodity, and that's where we're really acting a little bit like a rep. Okay, and we don't want to, not saying rep is a bad word, but normally that means you're representing a product rather than developing a sale. And we really want to get in and start developing sales. So be aware of this difference between how commodities and solutions separate and how you're separating them. If the customer is phoning up, just go, give me a price, it's a commodity, right? Or they're not allowing you to help them define the solution, which is your consultative purpose, right? That's why you're here. You're trying to get them to work in combination with you. So really importantly, do not confuse a component with a commodity, right? You can have a component that's a thing that fits in someone else's machine. It does a particular job for them. That doesn't make it a commodity. You can have these components that need a highly, even more so than even like most systems that are out there. When you're selling a component, you're probably going to have tremendously large amounts of solution selling to be going through here. You're going to really have to work as a consultant to make sure you have everything you want to make this work. So, consulting or evangelizing. The first thing is if you sell one thing, you've got to be an evangelist. You haven't got any choice. I'm here to tell you that we do this thing completely differently to everyone else. It's an amazing, it's a fantastic, it's a revolution. Here you are. We are doing it. If you're doing 2, you're a consultant. Like you can do it with A or B. A would be better in my opinion, and so on. Now that's a simplified way of thinking about it. But what is consulting? Well, Scott and I are consultants, and what consulting is defined as the practice of providing a third party with expertise on a matter for a fee. You want to learn how to do a voice of customer? Scott's got a course. You want us to do a market investigation for you? We can do VAC, we can do market sizing, we can do all the tools within PPH and so on. That's in there. Consultative selling is an approach that focuses on creating value and trust with the prospect and exploring their needs before offering a solution. You're saying, tell me about what you want and let's see how we fit to that. You're not saying, yeah, it is an amount, or let's keep focusing on why I think this is good. You're basically, it's like going on a date and asking them only questions about them and not talking about yourself. You're trying to understand their world so you can sell in a consultative way and help them as much as possible. So I kind of put it at the bottom. Put simply, if you know the jobs, the products, and the needs, you can help a customer explaining and recommending options to that customer. That's what we're trying to do in a consultative sale. Now, when you're selling, most of your kind of questions are going to be about developing needs and solutions. And we've got application needs. We've got all these needs about they're totally specific towards us, right? Does it have this? How many gigawatts per second is that? How much jiggle does it have in the X direction? All of those things are about what you're selling. That has nothing to do with selling in general and the way that you would learn selling if you did spin selling or FAB or any of these other things, or challenger or solution or whatever you want to do. This is about you. This is about fit. Then you have other selling methods and other questions you've got, which are going to be about organizational needs. Look, we've got to save 20%. What's your driving this? We've got to reduce costs, right? We need to get a competitive advantage against our competitors. They have the 20 million pixel. We have the 35. We're going to look better, aren't we? Right? And then there are personal needs. Look, I want to buy an IBM. We want to be showing as a company, that I really want to make sure we're running SAP because, my guys down the club run SAP and we're all on this. So we've got these emotional needs. All of your sales process stuff that you've ever learned in the past is focused on organizational personal. Application is the bit where you can't go to a sales training unless it's in-house that focuses on application. It doesn't exist. So not only do you need to have your sales disc laid out, we talk about your method and your go-to-market for selling, you've got to kind of think, well, application is not part of how I learn selling. I have to do this myself. So as I said, there are general selling. We have these general questions that we ask, and look, when do you need it? When does it need to be installed? And who else are you looking at? And what money have you got? And who signs it off? You've got all these things, and for that, I've always used Strongman. In the Guide Scientific business, we use Strongman. We provide training, and that's how we go through all our coaching with salespeople, because that applies to absolutely everything. Any sale we can assess with Strongman to understand where it is. And it's just really, really easy for us to work with our clients. But what it doesn't do, and what any sales process that you're going to learn, as I said, these other mechanisms, is it doesn't concentrate on correct application information, getting it, and then helping craft a deal out of that. And again, having enough information to be dangerous or useful of you view. So why have we got these things? Well, we are going to get asked questions, and where a consultative sale is going to fit within the buyer journey. And we know that we have these things called buyer journeys. Some of you are very kind and you continue to turn up for these things, so you know it. But this is a very simplified version of how people buy things. If I want to buy a coffee, I'm thirsty and tired. At 6 o'clock in the morning, my plane takes off in half an hour. Need recognition, right? There's a Costa, a coffee shop, and a Pret information search. Evaluation. I tried Starbucks. I like Starbucks. I'm going to go for Starbucks, and they've got really good seating. I'm kind of thinking about this. So I've got my information. I can see what's there. My evaluation is memory. I like it. I'm not going to do a demo in this case, but I'm looking at it. Look, there's loads of seats at Starbucks. I'm going to Starbucks. Stand in line, get my drink. Did I like it? No, it was cold and horrible. Damn, I've got half a drink left and I have to run for the plane. Do I put the drink with half liquid in the bin, or how do I do with the drink? Anyway, there are different things. But all the way through, we're buying it. And we buy products in this way. And you can jump up and down this stage and things will work differently. But most of the questions you're going to get asked and you're going to add value is when the customer is in the information search. You can obviously, as a salesperson, create, demand generation is highly kind of talked about at the moment and whether or not it's a real thing. But what you can do is you can definitely make people aware of your product and get them to think about things they could do in the future, which helps them in need recognition. Okay. And you're going to need a little bit of questioning for that, but you're mostly going to get the information in information search. That's when you're going to get a little bit of evaluation, but most of the time you're going to ask questions when the customer is in this process of information search. And more than ever, customers are arriving at you prepared. Why? Because 24 years ago when I started, we had a rack of literature behind me. You'd talk to a customer on the phone, you'd go and get the appropriate literature, put it in an envelope, print a letter, and send it to them. Now they have the internet, they're reading what they want and they're phoning up. And it's amazing how many times they get the wrong thing, or they totally missed a product, or they haven't understood it. No matter how good your web page is, doesn't matter. But a lot of the time they come in prepared because of previous conversations. They're getting to you at the point of qualifying you out, which is normally what they want. So what do they want for you? And the answer is, you're going to need the information to help drive a fit. But in information search, the buyer has three things that they're going to want to do. They're going to want to qualify you out. You're too expensive. You're too cheap. You're too complicated. It doesn't work that way. I thought it did. I want to get you out. I've selected 5 people to have phone calls with, send in emails, forms for, whatever it is. I want you out. And that's the most important thing about why we need trained consultative reps at the point of information search, is because they have a duty to qualify you out. If they're not qualifying you out, they're putting you in hold. I regularly hire people. I do this for myself or for other people. Sometimes you just put people on hold. Yeah, I'll call that guy in a couple of weeks. We'll see what's going on. I don't need to rush on it now. I'm not qualifying it. I'm not qualifying. I'm holding. Or you move into the next stage. And most of you are arriving at a deal going, wow, I can't believe they're not in the deal. They left. They were in it. Don't worry about it. They were there, right? So you're normally in a deal with 2 or 3 people. So normally 2 or 3 people deals. So when they're in information search, we need to understand what they want. What's the biggest thing that they want? Well, in most times in solution sales, they want a price. So you've got to play your cards right, because their biggest thing from you is like they want the price, and that's what you got to give up, right? That's your bid to give up. It's like, I'm phoning you up. I need to know how much this thing costs, because you don't put your prices on the website, or I might need configuration, or I want to buy 1,000, or I need it in blue. Whatever it is, I want to talk to you about price. I might have some other questions. I might want to sound you out to see if you're competent as a partner for me long term. But a lot of the time, I'm just looking for a price. So your card is to try and ask as many solution-based questions as you can to engage them and to find the information that helps you with fit and helps you find that solution for them at a consultative level. And people get scared of asking these questions. And you need to have flow, and these conversations need to be comfortable. But, if you ask a reasonable question, you can have a reasonable answer. If you were to go out for lunch with someone and say, what are you doing at the weekend on a Friday? Sounds like a pretty reasonable question. If you're talking, you go, oh yeah, I've got friends, I'm going to see my brother. Oh, you got brother and sister, or just brother? Sounds like a reasonable question. It's a continuation question. If you say, can you tell me exactly what your company's paying at the moment? Oh, hang on a minute. Okay, I might not want to answer that right now. Will you place an order tomorrow morning? Where did that come from? Right? So you're going to use reasonableness. Look, it would really help me if you can just tell me like what you're trying to achieve, what you're using at the moment, what's really important to you. Can you just give me a bit of that, and I'll make sure I get you the right product, because we might have some products you don't know about. We might have some products coming, or my website doesn't necessarily represent my product correctly. So I want you to be reasonable with me. Reasonableness works 99% of the time. In my entire career, once in my life, have I ever had a question rejected based on somebody going, no, I'm not telling you that. Once. And then sometimes they go, look, can we talk about that later? And you go, yeah, absolutely fine. We'll do that in the next stage. What do we need? An NDA? We're going to chat? What are we going to do? So what do you need, and how will you make sure you get all you need? Sorry, I got my camera moving around a little bit. So what are we going to do this? And this is where we really like this very basic principle of just make an acronym for you. Make key application information. Make this about your business. So this is all about you. And I think, Aaron's on, he said in one of the things on LinkedIn recently, any form of sales training that's generic has some problems to it. And this is because I think sales training has to come within. You have to have some of this inside your business, and it has to be about your world. So what it is just a way of documenting that you've got the information you need to ensure that you could do a consultative sale. And you make it a bit of fun. So you give it a funny name. This was one I wrote for someone called Drastic. Right? It's an acronym. D for data plan, R for required, assay, software, typical experiment, integration, current equipment. Now you're going to make this up so it makes sense for you. And your job is to fill in the answers to these questions. Like Strongman or like any other process, you need to fill in the answers to these questions. You don't ask these questions. You're looking for a typical experiment, for example. You want to know, okay, how many channels are you doing? Wells, files, typical exposure times, plates per week. You're going to say, can you tell me a little bit about a typical exposure time? a typical experiment, and they're going to go, well, we do 96 watt plates, we're doing them under DAPI and GFP or whatever it is, right? You're asking for that key information. And it doesn't have to be collected in order. You take the words, you sit down, you go, look, what actually do we need in every deal? What's useful for the product manager, for me to talk to my sales boss about, for me to talk to my applications person? What do I need? And we're just going to write it down. And then we're going to take the first letter and stick it in a crossword solving program and come up with an acronym, right? Or an acronym solver. You're going to try and make an acronym that makes sense for you. But this becomes the section that's all about, did I get the information? Did I get everything I need? Should I phone them back? What have I got? This information, have I got an answer? This information, have I got an answer? This information, is A or B better? And again, because the more you can work together with a client, with a customer, the more likely are they going to trust you. And people only buy when they are comfortable. They're either when they're comfortable or in extreme pain. And the extreme pain would be, I'm only going to buy a tire when I'm on the side of the highway and it's throwing it down with rain and it's cold. And you say it's $300? Yeah, $300. Get it on the car. Uncomfort or tremendous comfort is why you're going to buy things. So you make a little thing. You stick it in your CRM. You get people filling it in. And this helps tremendously because now we've got this great shared language. So look, let's not do anything wrong here. Everybody in history has been recording application information. They've been doing this for years. It's not unknown. And exactly the same as a golf person sits there and they can swing the club. And I always used to get frustrated with my friends. I go, how do you do that? I don't know. I just swing it. And you go, I have had lessons. I spent all the money. My clubs are 3 times more expensive than yours. And you play every year, and yet it's perfect. This is Matt Preston, if anyone's ever played with. You just go, how come this works for you, right? And it is. And there are people like me that need a little bit more. So the first thing is, if we have this written down, I can train faster. I put a standard into my business, and now I don't have to listen to Wise Bob, who's going, well, you know, the thing is for me, Wise Bob can't train. We need to capture what's good about Wise Bob and making sure that we get a new person into the sales. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. We're going to do this. And we build this kind of cadence and mechanism in. The other thing is teamwork and training. The amount of times we've gone, okay, look, we're going to ship the unit for, some of you guys probably don't know. If you ship like a big system for a demo, you're spending $30,000 on shipping. And you're going to send an applications person and a setup person. This thing's getting expensive. So you want to know exactly what the application information is. And I do not want to go through your emails, buddy. I don't want to go through your pages of notes and stuff like that. So I want a convenient place. And that's where I share it in a CRM. And I get the ability to say, look, I know exactly what we're turning up to. My applications person knows exactly what we're turning up to. We can ask questions around the edge and we're not digging through notes. And from that, so you have this as a product manager stuff. You're then able to go, let's go find all the people doing quantum. Yeah. Let's go find all the people that said this. Look, isn't it funny when people are doing DNA paint, they want 6 channels, right? You're straight in because you've captured it together and you can now use that information and pull it together to go, what are we actually looking at? And it's sometimes, a lot of people have CRM fields with primary application. How many times does that primary application not really fit? And you had a meeting, and over time, Brian asked for another one, and Sally asked for another one. Well, I want automotive, and I want industrial. Well, and this one's industrial, but it's automotive. This is about getting it down to a granular level so you can use it, your product managers can use it, and you can turn around and say, I'm driving this sale. Give me the resources I want. This is exactly what I need to happen. This is what I want you to do on this day. The last thing is personal standards. It's amazing the amount of time that we forget one particular bit of the information. And if we write it down and store it in the open, we can remember to go and ask for it. And again, yes, 24-year service reps like me, if you've been in service for a long time, you're pretty much playing on automatic. But I tell you what, you make mistakes and you're capable of regaining the extra information. So this is why I like using key application information in myself, because I've now got the information to do my features and benefit matches all the way through for my products on what's important or what we'll need to do to feed back into the company. So I challenge you to make your own KAI. Sit down. You probably need 8 things. The answers are, you will always end up with something that has something about current equipment or what they've already got, because you're trying to understand their situation and what application was the previous thing doing and how it moves on. But somewhere between 6 and 10 things will make a nice word. And in that nice word, it'll be pretty easy for people to actually remember and communicate and fill in what they've got to do. So it's pretty straightforward as an exercise. And I guarantee you'll sit there and go, God, we do ask that all the time. Or sometimes I don't think about that, or I've messed up because of that. So we would challenge you to have a go at making your own KAI and make sure it's clearly separated from your sales process questions. You're going to talk about application. Hey, I'm here to talk about applications today. And look, I'm going to know, when's your time scale? I'm going to fill that in because that's me selling and helping you through the process in a different way. But we're going to go and keep them as very separate sections for questions. So, final thing. Thank you very much for your time, guys. It's a relatively quick one, morely, because I just sort of talked, and we haven't had many questions, which is nice for me and sad for Scott because he doesn't get to measure that. But we all get a chance to see Scott's banjo collection in the background, which is always a lovely thing to see. Ever since his junior role in Deliverance, it's always been very good for Scott's banjo playing. So anyway, we have here the book. If you want to just buy a book, if you want to buy me a drink, that's great. We'll get it. If you every other one, I'll buy Scott a drink. That's a nice way, isn't it? But the other thing we've got here is just to understand all about the next one we've got, which is about pricing, which is about how to set it if you're in charge of setting it, and how to defend it if you're on the streets and you're a product manager or a salesperson who's going, look, this is the reason for doing it. So at this point, we're going to look at the basics of the tactics of why we set pricing like we do. Maybe we're in an entry thing. Maybe we're going to do stuff like that. And at the same time, we might have it that we're looking at, well, okay, we're entering a new market, we want it cheaper, or we might say, here's how you do a value to price kind of matrix and work out, well, okay, we think we're better at this product here, and we think we're better than that, or we can afford to be not as good because we're cheaper. So we're going to spend a little bit about that. It's a couple of weeks from now, which is good because I should have got over my cold by then. Hopefully, it's this time of year. So that's what we got today. If you're interested in things like KAI, we are, we're completely available. If anyone wants to discuss this with, putting this into your sales process, it's really just a good idea we'd like to share with people. But if you want any help from Scott or myself or Dan, let us know. And that doesn't have to be a chargeable. That could just be a chat. You can DM me, which I believe the kids say nowadays. And we're good for that. Look, so that's how it works. Thank you very much. Relatively short. If anyone's got any questions, we have a 15-second delay. I don't know why we have a 15-second delay. I can't stop swearing. I haven't sworn yet, which is good. But we have that on board. So, we're around.
For the
we're going to sit here. Is what, Scott?
It's for the beep when you do swear.
The beep. When I do the beep, yeah. So Scott is in charge of applying the beep to the 15-second delay. So, at the moment, that's what we've got. Thank you very much for your time today, guys. If you've got any questions, as I said, hang on. If you want to talk about anything, if you want to request, if you go, look, I'd really like a webinar on this, or we'd like to get this in another way, then let us know. And you can always get these things and pass them on to other people if you want. And we'll keep them in LinkedIn, and we'll probably put them up on the YouTube channel. We're pretty slow at doing that. But we're here for questions. Other than that, we're going to go quiet, and then we'll cut out, and we'll stop the recording at about this point. But other than that, have a fantastic weekend, everyone. And we hope you enjoyed it. If you do, say something. It's always lovely because to a certain degree, we sit here staring at a computer screen, hoping for the best. We get nice little pictures of people we know, which is lovely. But thank you very much again. Now, that's interesting because I left a pause there, which is for editing. So anyway, we'll see that from there. So yeah, always have to leave a little pause for editing. But a little bit of fun on a Friday.
Well, actually, I have a quick question for you.
Oh, go for it.
So you said something earlier about the sales training, just general sales training becoming stale.
Yeah, because
is that because it hasn't adapted to the way people buy today, and it's still they're still doing the same thing they did 20
I
years
think
ago?
it's. I don't think it's so. I think that generic sales training is it's a good thing to help people understand a little bit about sales. Like spin selling, I think helps explain sales a little bit to people, and it really explains things about like how do I look at needs and how do I ask questions in a particular way, which is important. But if you're new to sales, you really need other salespeople around you to learn how to apply your sales. And that is really, for me, like spin selling is a helpful way forward. It's not how to sell. I've never seen anything which is a how to sell metrics. I think you need coaching through this first bit of selling, right? And understanding and knowing your rules. I think the bigger thing I was kind of getting to there was everyone's arriving with more information, which shifts the sale a little bit.
That's what I meant by how they
I'm not sure that
deal with that.
I don't know whether or not the way you respond is different, other than the fact that the chances are they're going to arrive fully loaded and the questions you're going to need and the way you're going to work with that information will be different.
Yeah.
So you don't have to explain how something works, for example. And most people are relatively naive on a purchase relative to the person they're buying from. They're buying from an expert. But you don't have to explain any of this stuff to them, do you? You don't have to go. You don't have to say, "Let me explain to you the difference between CCD and CMOS. Let me explain to you what high content screening is and why it's important." You're not doing that. The conversations can be shorter, and the conversations can be more on point about finding differences and matches and so on. But generally, I don't know. The way I've sold hasn't changed tremendously, other than the platforms and things. I want people on the phone. I want to see people. And the reason I want to see people and have people on the phone is because I engage with them. And the more they engage with me, some people might not think this now because they're a bit bored, the more they sort of like you. The more they're willing to give you answers. Like if I say to you, Scott, have you, do you live in a house or a flat, right? Or an apartment? You'll answer me because you're there. Because social norms have meant that you can't not answer me. I might have to let you answer me, but there is a bit which is, you can't. You can ignore an email. We've allowed people to ignore emails. It isn't a one-to-one reply mechanism. It's not like I ask a question, you send it back. Emails are like fire, occasional one back. Fire. So, my approach to selling and what the information I need is still strongman. The application information, I think, is as valid as it's always been. But I think that they're just a load more aware. I don't know. What's your thoughts, Scott?
Yeah,
You're still
thinking.
It's not.
Well,
it's not 15
it was only.
delay
It was
for
only
you.
about the. It's only about the point of the way the customer buys now. Like you said that they come to the table with so much more information now.
Yeah.
And spin selling, for example, as you brought it up, teaches the types of questions you should ask, and the kinds of when the questions should be asked and how many you should ask, and I do think it's good, but I'm wondering whether or not they haven't adapted that questioning to today's customer who doesn't necessarily want that.
I think there's a problem where
but it's a good point. I mean, that's what I like about strongman, though. I mean, strongman doesn't define the way that you have to do something. This is information you need. Ask however you want, but do you have a solution? Do you know the time? Do you understand the need?
My kind of concept is as long as you're never appealing as if you're overtly selling in a slimy way, and there are slimy ways of doing it that still exist based on these old things. Like, I used to call it the "Do you want a free holiday in Jamaica" question. Let me give you a question where you can't say no. And then these are the questions you sort of get. Like, there used to be people that would stand at like, I forget, Home Depot or our equivalent of it, and say, "Would you like to save money on your heating costs?" Now, there's a stupid question. right? And it's one that, no, I'd like to pay more for my heating costs. Actually, I've decided I want premium grade gas. I'd like it to be a little bit better. I'd like my blue flame to be bluer. And that I think is those old techniques that were around agitate people, because actually what people want to have is a genuine conversation. So I think there is a temptation in a lot of those sales processes to feel, because you're being firm gripped sold, and you're not
That's
being
what, yeah.
sold. You're not being sold by, hey, look, I'm here to help. There are people like, I maybe I'm being a bit stereotypical. If you walk into a room wearing a waistcoat, we've got a problem, right? I do want to buy from you. Yeah, unless I'm buying a waistcoat, right? I just, of that level of, yeah, okay, right, let's do, I don't want any of that selling. I want someone to have a normal conversation with me in a calm and relaxed manner. That's what I want. I mean, maybe I'm different, but I think normally people are just like, yeah, okay, fine. And the other thing, which is just standard for life, which is no blagging. No turning around and saying, yes, I think it's this. No. If you don't know, put your hands up and tell them you'll find out for them. It's just so much easier to go, look, I don't know that. Someone said to me yesterday, I have absolutely no idea. I don't have engineer written on my card. I can help you written on my card. And that's truly at the heart. My definition of sales has always been a process of helping someone through a purchase get to the solution they need, with a result that is both good for me and them. The bit for me is when I win, but I can't sell them bad stuff. I can't sell them the wrong thing. It has to be the right thing. It has to be perfect for them. So yeah, I think a lot of those old spin selling type things, they encourage the mischievous rather than the psychological approach to understanding people, which is the bit that I find most interesting. But people do things that are psychological. If you shake someone's hand and you say their name, and you say your name, they say their name. It's just brilliant, isn't it? It's a fantastic understanding how people work. Anyway, I know there's a whole bunch of people on. If anyone's still listening, welcome to the Scott and James podcast now, chatting about what we think, which it's a later project. It's a later project.
Is exactly. Which is what every webinar should be about.
Yeah, I think there's a certain degree, if you could just get people to do. Some of the best webinars are ones where you sort of feel that you're on the sofa, but you're too tired to talk. You're sort of listening with them, but you're not there anymore. So, dear. Anyway, if anyone's still there, there's lovely to say, thanks, guys. It would be get a process for a KI for banjo. Yeah,
that's right.
Band gap.
Next time we'll start and end with a little banjo.
Yeah, I think it's band gap. I think you got your J coupling distance or your J relaxation time. We can make one. It is fine. We do it for mass specs or something. Was it J time in mass specs or NMRs or something? Yeah, I know. Right. Anyway, thank you, Scott. Thank you, anyone else who's still on. And we will catch up with you later on. All right. Thanks, guys. Catch you later. Bye.